Have you ever noticed that the biggest obstacles to your own success, or, just your peace of mind, are often the ones you build yourself?
Hmm.
We all know someone who achieves something great and then just self-destructs.
Hmm.
Or maybe you've seen that pattern play out, more subtly in your own life.
Right.
We're talking about self-sabotage and why gaining real, effortless influence over your own decisions can feel, well, almost impossible.
That internal friction is exactly what we're digging into today. We're working with a map, really, drawn from Robert Greene's work on human behavior, and we're focusing on that initial framework for self-mastery.
Yeah.
This isn't about blaming, the outside world or bad luck. It's about decoding those hidden gears inside us, the subconscious saboteurs
Yeah.
that really drive our choices.
And that is the mission. We're going to unpack the brain's architecture, not just what it is, but how that structure kind of forces us into making irrational decisions.
Yeah.
We'll decode why we feel like we have to wear social masks. And I think most importantly, identify the negative attitudes and those deep fears that are always holding us back.
It's time to get beyond the usual self-help talk and really, look under the hood of our own nature.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
We have to start with Law 1, the law of irrationality. I think most of us assume we operate on, pure, cool logic.
We'd like to think so.
Right. But the source material gives us this great analogy. The emotional mind is a storm-tossed ship, just changing course all the time, while the rational mind is only the steady hand on the wheel. But why is that hand so often late to the game?
Well, the delay is completely structural. If you really want to understand self-sabotage, you have to get that the brain is basically an old machine with new parts stuck on top. Think of it as 3 different systems, and they're all wired for speed, not for accuracy.
Okay, so lay those systems out for us. How does that wiring lead to us, say, choosing the quick dopamine hit over the thing we know we should be doing for the long term?
So the oldest system is the reptilian brain. This is just pure survival. Fight, flight, feed, freeze. It is instantaneous.
Okay.
And then stacked right on top of that, you have the limbic system, which is our emotional center. This is where feelings like anger, anxiety, pleasure, it all comes from here. And the key thing is it reacts seconds before our conscious mind even knows what's happening.
So by the time we feel that temptation, the signal's already been fired.
It's already gone. And then much later comes the magnificent neocortex.
The shiny new part.
The shiny new part, yes. That's the seat of logic, complex reasoning, planning. It's what we count on to be rational, but because it's the newest part of the machine, it's also the slowest.
So by the time your rational mind is ready to analyze the pros and cons of, I don't know, sending an angry email.
The emotional mind has already smashed the send button.
Right. So that lag is what makes us fall for cognitive biases. Our feelings, like the need for comfort or validation, they just hijack our logic. We get stuck in confirmation bias, only looking for info that confirms the feeling we already had.
Absolutely. And that's why the strategy isn't to try and, get rid of emotion. That's impossible. It's to create space for the rational mind to catch up.
And step 1 is just recognition.
Recognition. You have to catch yourself in the act of reacting instead of thinking. You have to ask, why am I doom scrolling for 2 hours? Or why did that tiny comment make me so angry?
And that recognition then leads to the next step, which is tracing that emotion back to its roots. Is this rage really about what just happened? Or is it, an echo of something much older?
Yes. Understanding the source is the only way to break the pattern. And finally, the most important part, the pause.
The pause.
When that surge of frustration or anxiety hits, you have to physically step back, take a breath. That simple act, just 5 seconds of space, that's what lets the slower, rational neocortex finally get into the game. It gives you a choice.
Okay, so let's shift from that internal wiring to our public selves. This brings us to Law 2, the law of narcissism. And I think we all feel this one. I mean, when was the last time you were scrolling on your phone and you didn't feel that little pang of comparison or envy?
It's constant.
Or that frustration when a conversation, shifts away from something you did?
And the sources define this really well as a spectrum. The question isn't if you have narcissistic traits, because we all seek validation. It's about where you fall on that spectrum.
Okay.
So on the destructive end, you've got the deep narcissist. This is someone who is pathologically dependent on praise to mask this bottomless insecurity. And that often leads to just intense rage when they're challenged.
But the other end is the healthy narcissist.
Correct. And this person can still enjoy attention, they can have strong self-regard, but they balance it with a real ability to empathize and to focus on what other people are feeling and needing. The whole goal of self-mastery is shifting from that deep end toward the healthy end.
And that starts with, what, just intense self-monitoring. If you find yourself always dominating conversations or overreacting to criticism.
You've got to practice real empathy. Green has this great line, treat each person as an undiscovered country. You're not listening just so you can reply. You're listening to actually explore their world.
And this next strategy is so relevant right now.
Well, yeah.
Get away from the screen.
Oh, absolutely. Social media is pure performance. It just feeds that deep narcissist by making us fixate on image and what other people think. Real unmasked connection, the kind that builds empathy. It only grows in person. You can't hide behind a curated profile.
Which is the perfect pivot to Law 3, the law of role-playing. Because we know most people are, to some degree, self-absorbed, we have to understand the social performance.
Right. Everyone wears a mask.
Everyone. Whether it's to adapt or for protection, like projecting this image of success to hide, crippling self-doubt, deception is always hiding under the surface.
So if you're going to navigate the social world, you have to get really good at seeing through these layers. And that means intense observation.
So first you're looking at the nonverbal cues. If someone's words seem a little too polished, a little too perfect, check their body language. Are their arms crossed? Is their posture stiff?
And the smile, a genuine smile always uses the muscles around the eyes. If it's just the mouth, it's probably a reflex, not a real emotion.
And second, you have to establish a baseline for their behavior.
A baseline, yeah. How does this person act when they're calm, when they're not threatened? Once you know they're normal, you can spot the big changes when they're stressed or trying to hide something.
And then third, context. The mask someone wears in the boardroom is going to be different from the one at a backyard barbecue. If you know the role they're supposed to be playing, you can see the cracks in the performance.
And of course, if we're watching others, we have to meticulously manage our own presentation. That means crafting an image that serves your goals and making sure every detail, your clothes, your mannerisms, is aligned with it.
Right, mastering your own role-playing. Confident posture, good eye contact, varying your vocal tone so you don't sound, monotone and boring. All right, let's shift from our immediate behaviors to the traits that define our long-term path. This brings us to Law 4, the law of compulsive behavior.
This one is a bit of a sobering law. It basically argues that your core character is shaped very early, and it's largely fixed. You can't fundamentally change your nature.
Oh.
But you can understand it and manage it. Character isn't about grand statements. It's revealed in those small, repeated actions over time. The pattern is the truth.
So the strategy here isn't to fight your nature, but to work with it. If you have, say, a deep, compulsive need for order, forcing yourself into a chaotic startup is just a recipe for disaster.
It's a recipe for burnout, exactly. Or think about someone who has a natural need for approval. That person will probably struggle in a high-conflict management role, but they might be an incredible diplomat or a fantastic customer service specialist.
So slotting your fixed traits into roles where they're an asset, not a liability.
You've got it.
That sets up Law 5, the law of covetousness. We're wired to want what other people have. And the sources say this chase is just a constant source of suffering.
It is. But Green argues that if you understand this mechanism, it becomes an incredibly powerful tool for influence. This is where you learn to create desire in other people.
And the first strategy is to create a little mystery.
A little mystery and intrigue. The sources are so clear on this. If you're too available, too transparent, if you show all your cards at once, your value just plummets. You have to maintain an element of the unknown.
And then there's creating rivalries of desire, making it seem like other people want what you have, your time, your attention, your product. It just immediately elevates your status.
But we have to talk about the counterpoint, which is so important for self-mastery. Don't become a victim of your own cravings. You have to do the work, the introspection, to figure out what you truly want, not just what society's echo chamber tells you should want.
That's a huge distinction. Okay, Law 6, the law of short-sightedness. If Law 1 taught us that we're emotionally reactive, this one shows us we're also just wired for immediate gratification.
Think of it like chess. A beginner only sees the piece they can capture right now.
The immediate move.
The immediate move. The master sees the whole board 5 moves ahead. To avoid getting checkmated by your own impulses, you have to learn to play the long game.
And the strategy is simple in theory, but so hard in practice. You have to elevate your perspective, step back, emotionally distance yourself from that urgent decision, and just ask, Does this align with my vision for 6 months from now?
And you have to curate your environment. If you hang around impulsive, short-sighted people, they will drag you down into their patterns. You need to seek out people who demonstrate patience and strategic thinking.
Okay, this is where it gets, for me, really interesting. Why we resist change, even when it's good for us. Law 7, the law of defensiveness. Why do we cling to bad habits?
Because there are 3 universal self-opinions that form the bedrock of our identity, and we will protect them at all costs. Number 1, I am autonomous. I act of my own free will.
Right.
Number 2, I am intelligent. My judgment is sound. And number 3, I am good and decent. I'm a moral person. If you challenge any of those directly, you just hit a brick wall of defensiveness.
So you can't confront the beliefs, you have to maneuver around them. And the first strategy is to become a deep listener.
Since we know people are naturally self-absorbed, just giving them your genuine, undistracted attention makes them feel respected. It lowers their guard instantly.
Second, infect people with the right mood. If you approach a tough conversation with calm and warmth, their nervous system is primed to mirror that back to you.
Yeah, you set the tone.
And third, this one's subtle, you confirm their self-opinion. So instead of pointing out a flaw in a coworker's presentation, you might praise how well they articulate complex ideas in private. You address the issue while bolstering their self-regard.
And you can even use their resistance, a little reverse psychology. If someone is reluctant to try a new process, you can say, look, you're free to stick with the old system if you're comfortable. No pressure. I just thought you, specifically, might appreciate the efficiency.
It puts the ball back in their court. So now we get to the consequences of all this defensiveness. Law 8, the law of self-sabotage. The biggest barriers aren't external. They are our own internal fears.
Right. And this law points to 5 destructive negative attitudes that keep us stuck. You've got the hostile attitude, which sees threats everywhere, and so it creates conflict. Then there's the anxious attitude, the fear of losing control. This leads to, like, obsessive micromanaging.
We also have the avoidant attitude. This is that crippling doubt in your own competence. It's the person who overpromises and underdelivers because they're terrified of being judged for a real failure.
Then the depressive attitude, which comes from a feeling of unworthiness and pushes help away. And finally, the resentful attitude, which wastes all its energy on grudges and seeing other people's success as some kind of personal injustice.
It sounds absolutely exhausting. So if these are all just fixed scripts that come from fear, is the antidote really just forcing small, positive habits, even when you don't feel like it?
That's it exactly. The antidote is consistent, positive action. You can't wait until you feel like it. You have to force those small steps. Dedicate 30 minutes to that thing you're avoiding. It creates this cumulative effect that slowly rewrites those negative scripts.
Okay, we end this deep dive with Law 9, the law of repression. This is where we have to confront the shadow, the dark side of our personality, all the impulses we try to hide from the world and, from ourselves.
Repression causes this huge internal turmoil, and that energy has to go somewhere. It comes out in destructive ways. A really clear sign is contradictory behavior. The public moral crusader who gets caught doing something corrupt.
Or those emotional outbursts that are just way out of proportion to the situation.
That's a huge one. It's a lifetime of suppressed anger bubbling up. But the most common sign is projection.
Right. Accusing others of being manipulative or selfish.
Precisely because they're struggling with and repressing those exact same impulses in themselves. They condemn in others what they can't accept in themselves.
And to mask all this, we adopt these personas, like the tough guy, whose aggression is just hiding a deep vulnerability.
Or the rigid rationalist who dismisses all emotion to avoid facing their own irrationality and, their fear of being vulnerable. The mask is always compensating for the hidden opposite.
The snob is another great one. Projecting this air of superiority to hide a deep fear of just being ordinary.
And the final step to self-mastery is integration. You have to confront and accept these darker parts. They are part of you. You don't get rid of them, you integrate them. The goal is to let the shadow work for you.
How so?
Well, you can use that latent anger, but constructively to defend a boundary. Or you can transform that vulnerability into a source of genuine connection with someone. Integration turns those impulses into strength, not self-sabotage.
So, what does this all mean? When you look at them together, these 9 laws, they're really just the ultimate map to our own internal machinery. They show us exactly where we're most likely to trip ourselves up. The first step to self-mastery isn't perfection. It's just recognition.
The real power here is gaining perspective and control. You don't try to eliminate your human nature. You learn its fixed patterns, your character, your defensiveness, and then you integrate the parts of yourself you've been trying to hide.
The next set of laws are all about understanding others, but this is the foundation. So here's a final thought. If you had to identify and integrate just one of your own shadow personas, maybe it's the passive-aggressive charmer or the snob or the rigid rationalist, which one would give you the most practical strength in navigating the social world? Something to mull over until our next deep dive.